Lea Kendall. I'm a counsellor and co-founder of Woodland Classroom with my husband. We reconnect people of all ages to nature through bushcraft, forest school, foraging, well-being in the woods and nature therapy. So in this workshop, Glennie and I are going to be talking to you about why you should be connecting to nature and how we might go about this. So to begin with, I'll be sharing some of the science, some of the sort of evidence-based research that's come out about forest bathing and mindfulness in nature to get you excited about going out and practicing it for yourself. So I'll talk a bit about what forest bathing is, why it is good for us, and then I will be telling you lots and lots of ideas that you can take away, because what I've noticed in the ticket sales is there's a lot of people who are booked on, who are group leaders or people who want to start taking people out into the woods for well-being walks. Plenty of people who want to do it for their own personal experience too, but I want to give you loads of ideas to take away, practical ideas that you can run with for yourself. I will also talk to you about woodland, mindfulness and bushcraft and how the two can make a beautiful partnership, okay, about taking your nature connection that bit further. I will also be sharing with you some free resources that can help you if you're perhaps an activity leader or for your own family, your own personal use, but free resources that you can take, whether they print or download or sign up to, that you can use to enhance your practice. That will be at the end. So I would like to say a special welcome to all our patrons in the room. We have 3 of our top tier patrons. So a very special welcome to Leslie Stevens, Chris Grice and Sarah Parker. They get to attend this workshop for free. They also get one-to-one mentoring from James and I. And now I would like to give an even more special welcome to Glennie Kindred, who is someone who has inspired me with her teachings since I found out about her at the beginning of our sort of business venture as Woodland Classroom. I cannot tell you how happy I am to be talking with her on the subject of nature connection. Over to you, Glennie.
Oh, thank you, Lee. And lovely to see so many people, really exciting. So my passion is for trees, and my passion is for native plants and native trees. And over the last few years, particularly, I've got really passionate about rewilding. So I rewilded my own town garden and wrote Letting in the Wild Edges, which was about me rewilding my town garden, and I'm just still on that journey, and that was sort of about 7 or 8 years ago now. So I'm still on the rewilding journey. I'm still growing lots and lots of native plants and giving them away wherever I can, wherever people would be willing to have them, and plant them in their gardens, and guerrilla gardening, and helping to rewild my little town in Derbyshire where I live. And I'm also passionate about pushing my boundaries out, and just pushing into finding where my intuition lies and where my instincts are, and pushing my boundaries. I'm going to talk a little bit today about stepping out into the dark and, different ways to find our connection to nature that perhaps aren't always comfortable at first, but then, we grow into them and, they become part of us. So I'm a writer and an artist, and the two go hand in hand, and I've got 12 books in print, and they're all illustrated by me. And it was a way of me, I didn't intend to be a writer. It was a way of me getting my art out in the first place. So but they're all about our relationship with the earth, relationship with trees, and our relationship with nature, because that's also my passion, is how we re-find our relationship, how we get back to a deeper relationship with nature. So I hope I'll be sharing some of my ideas and thoughts on that this evening. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Glennie.
Yeah.
Now, in the email I sent out, and if you bought your ticket well in advance, you will possibly have followed the instructions and got yourself some cleavers water. If not, don't worry, it might be a herbal tea you've got with you. If not, it's fine. Just watch and let's see. It's an idea you can do at a later date. So I ask people to go out and collect some cleavers, put it in a jar or a jug of water, and then leave in the fridge for a few hours or overnight. And to have it ready, sieved in a glass to drink live on the workshop. So I'm just going to pour mine here. I've actually made mine into a tea. So cleavers, or goosegrass, Latin name Galium aparine, is the stuff we stick to each other's backs as kids. Okay, it's a wild food. We'll talk a little bit more about why we want it in our lives and why we want it in our diets in just a moment. Okay, so stop share. So I've practiced this. There we go. Okay, so we're going to have a mindful moment. Okay, we're going to take our drink. We're going to close our eyes, and we're going to just breathe and just get into our bodies and take a moment just to be still. And then we're going to have a mouthful of our cleavers water. We're going to notice the feeling in our mouth. We're going to swallow it, and we're going to be present enough to notice where we feel that in our body. What experience do we have when drinking our cleavers water? And if anything comes to mind, please do feel free to put it in the chat room, but maybe notice where in the body you feel it, and just really connect with your body as we take a sip of our cleavers water. Okay, let's go. There we have our mindful moment, and just really zone into the body. Is there anything you experience? We have some people giving us the other names for goosegrass. Yes, sticky willy. Chest, somebody said they feel it in their chest going down. I get a little flush, little tingles in the face. Another name for it here in Wales is khaki monkey. That's my favourite. Okay, the reason I wanted you to give it a mindful moment is because it's such an important, wonderful, amazing, beneficial plant. And I'm going to let Glennie tell you about some of the benefits we get from either eating or drinking cleavers or goosegrass. So Glennie, let us know why.
Well, it's absolutely one of my favourite plants. It's always one of the first ones up, and I just constantly graze it and nibble it. I must say I don't pick it from the lanes. Because it's a very low growing plant, and I feel as if with all the dog walkers and everything, is not good to pick on the lanes. So I grow it in pots, and the more you pick those little juicy tips and nibble them, the more you get. and it seems to like more and more seem to appear overnight. It's amazing. And it, as a plant, as we know, it gets really long and leggy, but if you keep it in a pot, or several pots in my case, and you keep picking them out, then the tips out, then it stays quite a bushy plant, and you can actually eat it for the next few months. And it's hugely beneficial. It's a spring tonic, and it clears out the old. It clears, like all the spring tonics. It's a great way of helping your body to clear out all the old toxins that are the residue left from our heavier diets of the winter. It also strengthens the immune system. So a very, very, very good plant to be taking at this point in time. And it's antiviral. So again, a good plant to be taking at this time. It's very strengthening. I feel when I eat it that I feel stronger for it. And of course, we're all craving greens at this point in time. And because it's one of the early greens, the early spring greens, it's a really good one. You can throw it in your salads. You can have it on your bread. You can just graze it. And of course, you can make teas and infused waters. It's not a good plant to dry, interestingly enough. It loses a lot of its benefits when you dry it. So if you want to preserve it, it's probably better to make it into a tincture with alcohol or honey and glycerine. So that's
great.
Good. Anyway, it's good.
Yeah, I put it in honey for a month and then sieve it out.
Yeah.
I like to remember, so it's known for the cleansing of the lymphatic system. And if you look at the way the plant is, it's almost like a pipe cleaner. So imagine it cleaning out the pipes and getting rid of all the ickiness.
Yes, that's a really good analogy. Yeah.
Any forest school leaders out there, it's fantastic when it gets longer to wrap around itself and create a green crown. It's another, what's the other thing? Oh, tag. Play tag with it, especially for kids who don't like to be touched. Okay, play tag with it, and you stick it to children's backs, but also you can use it as a sieve. Out in the woods, you're making some herbal tea. Gather it together and pour your herbal tea through the cleavers into your cups, and you have a sieved tea ready. It's great. It's a great plant.
Fantastic.
Now I do have notes here, so I apologise for keep looking down, but it's just to remind me so I don't miss anything out. So we don't really need to convince anyone here how nature is good for us. We feel better when we go out into nature, especially this last year through the pandemic. It has been the saviour of so many people. So many people have reconnected and found their love of nature again and gone out and valued their walks so much, more than ever before. You know, it's been a huge year for people appreciating their local and immediate green spaces again. You know, I don't need to convince anyone that it makes us feel better, especially at difficult times. Now, foraging there's been a huge uptake and surge in interest in the wild foods around us. Apparently, the Googling of wild garlic, dandelion flowers, sloes and things like that have gone up something 300% last year. It was a huge interest because people were exploring their local green spaces but paying more attention. Before, they would just walk through it and perhaps get bored, so then drive out and go and visit other brand new places. But people have been forced to repeat the same walk over and over and over again, which has been the best thing ever because they have started to become mindful. They haven't said I'm going to be mindful, because it can be a bit of a buzzword. They have been paying more attention to the plants around them and wondering what it is. Can I eat that? And the interesting thing is, now, as a hunter-gatherer, which our brains pretty much have been designed and are designed to be excellent hunter-gatherers, but evolution has raced ahead so quickly that our brains haven't had time to catch up. And so our brains are still going, why aren't we picking berries and sitting around the fire with our communities? And what we were as hunter-gatherers was excellent at pattern recognition. So we were very good at looking at a plant and knowing, one, can we eat it? Does it nourish us? Or two, is it poisonous? Will it kill us? And we could recognise plants just, perhaps at the corner of our eye. We were very good at it, and we've kind of lost that ability, although you can sort of rekindle that. And they've discovered that every time you pick a plant, you recognise it, you pick it and eat it, even before you eat it, you release dopamine in the brain, which is a feel-good neurotransmitter or chemical in the brain. So picking plants to eat makes us feel good. There is some science to back that up. Wonderful. Now, I like this. I read it in a book and it's so true. It's just a sentence and it says, something has been awoken within us that we didn't know we'd forgotten. And that captures it beautifully for me. Something just is awoken within us. It's always been there. But for some reason, the stress of modern life has, I don't know, pushed it down, and it's too small to notice, but it's grown, and we are noticing that inner hunter-gatherer, that inner nature person through this pandemic especially. Okay, so I am now going to go straight into my first section, and that is all about what is forest bathing, what is mindfulness in nature, and why is it good for us. So forest bathing it's not just a walk in the woods. Like mindfulness in nature, it's about taking it to another level. It's about becoming present. We can all go for a walk through the woods and feel better. Okay, we all know it feels good, but we could possibly be still carrying with us the stresses of the day in our heads. And we are missing plenty of opportunities then to get all the benefits from the woodland itself. By slowing down, becoming present, becoming mindful, we are really taking in and enhancing the benefits of being out in the woodland. Now, Shinrin-yoku, which translates as forest bathing, originated in Japan. And it came about because what they noticed was people living next to the woodland, next to forests, had a lower rate of cancer, heart disease, and stress-related illness compared to those living in the city, which led to a lot of research into why this was. And so came Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. And I talk about mindfulness in nature a lot. It's very similar. There are a lot of similarities, but when I talk about mindfulness in nature, I bring in more mindfulness teaching, and but they're very similar. Let's talk about it all as a whole, all about nature connection. So the research, lots of evidence-based research has come out that have proven that there's the presence of these phytoncides in the air of forests. So trees kind of emit this aromatherapy oil, if you like. It's actually a defense mechanism of the tree to stop sort of fungal attacks and things like that. But we are breathing that in as we walk through a forest. And by all accounts, a pine forest contains the most of them. It's that damp air that we breathe in. We can almost feel it on our skin. So they've noticed that the saliva, they've tested the saliva of people walking through a forest, and a huge reduction in cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. We know that the parasympathetic nervous system is engaged, which is also known as the rest and digest. So we are no longer in the fight or flight. Our stress levels are reducing, our bodies are relaxing, we are able to digest our food properly, our bodies are going into healing mode, we are producing the natural killer cells in our body, which is the immune function of our body. We're fighting off the viruses and any disease in the body because we're in a state of relaxation. So the body's doing what it needs to do. It's resting, it's digesting, it's healing, and doing all that good stuff. So it's a reduction in stress levels. So we feel better. There are studies of businessmen taken out of the cities, spending days in nature, and they've then measured the cortisol levels, and the benefits last at least 7 days. When they go back into the city environment, their cortisol levels don't return to what it was previous for 1-2 weeks, sometimes longer. So the benefits are lasting. They've talked about the creativity and the mental performance. So they took a group of outward bound participants into like a backpacking experience for 3 days, where they tested their mental performance and creative skills before the 3 days and then afterwards. And they actually performed 50% better at these tests. So quite a significant improvement. Oh yeah, of course you've got the people in hospitals and their ability to heal and how long it takes them to recover when they've got access to green spaces. There's studies of people in prisons and how many people are likely to get a cold or the flu that have access to green space as opposed to those who don't. And there are significant differences. The body heals when it's exposed to nature. That is proven. So, and I know we shouldn't need evidence, but we're human and we love a bit of evidence. And sometimes if you're a group leader and you're out and you want to convince people that they should be going out and practicing as much as possible, a little bit of science and a bit of evidence can just push people to go, you know what, this is something I'm going to do every day in their own way. So I'm going to get on to the point of why do we need to create an event called forest bathing? Why don't we all just go out and go into the forest and sit on the woodland floor and observe nature? There's something about us as humans that need permission to be present in nature. How many people have got a dog because they want to go out walking in nature and they feel like they need a reason for it? And as a group leader, you provide an event where people can create art out of twigs. Would they do that had they not booked onto your event? I'd like to think, yes, they would. But I don't know, something about needing permission to go out and be present in nature. So as group leaders, or perhaps you're the family, you're taking your family out, it's about saying, right, this is what we're doing. We're going on this event, this is the group activity, and you now have permission to do it. So it could be that you go out and do flower identification, tree identification, you join a group for nature photography. It's all that thing about, you know what, now I can just be in nature and no one's going to think it's strange because I'm doing this thing. Okay, so you're giving people a bit of a gateway into it. So Glennie's going to talk in a minute about the Earth's seasonal cycles, and we have, as Woodland Classroom, developed our events and sort of gotten more and more deeper into the whole nature connection. And we started 3 years ago running a winter solstice, and it is our favourite event of the year. It's magical. So you can see a video of our Woodland winter solstice on YouTube. We met everybody in the car park. There's probably about 35 people, families, It's very much a community event. We had a lantern lit walk down into the woods where there was candles and fairy lights. We had birch logs on the fire that burned bright and hot. Big fire, and there were activities there for the families to do. We had a wishing tree with lots of coloured wool. So you all had 3 wishes each. 1 wish for yourself, 1 wish for the community, 1 wish for the earth. And then by the end of the evening, the wishing tree is all covered in these beautiful dangling bits of wool. We had night trails and glow stick hunts for the kids, and a spiral of candles on a big old tree stump where families could set their intentions for the year ahead. And we had a great big pot of spiced apple juice, and we roasted chestnuts on the fire. My husband played the mandolin. We sang, beautiful, absolutely amazing. And what sent goosebumps down my spine was on the second year, one of my husband's very good friends is an archaeologist, and he was playing the mandolin with him. But he talked about how they're always uncovering sites, 1,000, perhaps 2,000 years old, evidence of where people sat around the fire, and there's the discarded shells of tree nuts. And we were doing exactly that. And it was a moment of connecting with our ancestors. It was just fabulous. And so in order to find out a little bit more about this and the experience of it, I'm going to now pass over to Glennie.
Unmute myself. Oh, that was great. It was great to hear the science. I often I can't, my brain can't take it in. I thought it was brilliant that your brain could take it in and your brain could transfer it to all of us. So that's fantastic, Lee. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't got the sort of brain that can take or understand science. And I think perhaps that's why I'm more interested in what it is I'm feeling, and what it is I'm picking up. Because I think when we're out in nature, we're, as Lee said, you know, we have this ancient person still inside us, and we have these awarenesses. One of the things I do when I go to the woods, you know, I almost like some more ancient part of me seems to take over, and I become more more intuitive, I guess, and I think that it's really important that when we go into the woods, that we allow the woods to take over. Take over us in a way, take over in a way that we find that connection to ancient parts of ourselves. Hello, little baby. And I'm feeling that we have to let our energy drop from our heads. You know, we have to learn how to drop our energy from our heads. And we'll have to learn how to listen to ourselves from our hearts. And the great thing about all of nature is that nature teaches us to slow down, and so that we can hear the call of our instincts and our intuition. And we have to learn to walk with nature in a different way. Because if we just walk with nature, chatting or steaming along, we miss so much. And we have to really find ways to find inner connection, and find ways to reconnect to our interconnected awareness, so that we're more in our senses, and we're more aware of ourselves as part of nature because I think we're on this great transformational journey at the moment of becoming no longer in this place of being separate from nature, but to a place of being more aware of our interconnectedness. And I think it's a big evolutionary shift that we're making. Some of us are making. And it's trusting our intuition, observing nature, but not imposing ourselves on nature. It's being in a state of open-heartedness and love and sympathetic and kind and all these qualities that we used to take nature for granted, and now we're not so much doing that. So I'm not going to talk about the science because I can't do that. I'm just going to talk about some of my personal practices that have helped to bring about change for me and opened me up to a deeper relationship with nature and myself. And so I'm going to talk about following the Wheel of the Year and the seasonal cycles through the 8 Celtic festivals, or 8 Earth festivals as they're becoming more known as now. These 8 festivals give me an anchor. They define my year. I keep a journal so that I can log what I'm doing at these festivals, where I am, what I'm feeling. And each festival brings me a different awareness of the earth and how that's resonating in me. And each festival I go outside, I spend a day outside, I gift myself a day. Okay, today is for me. Today is for me in nature. And they're hugely important parts of my life. And it sounds funny to say there's 8 of them, because a year turns, and but these 8 points are important 8 points. So just a kind of slight quick recap. We have the solstices. We have the axis of the 2 solstices, the summer solstice and the winter solstice. At the winter solstice, the day is short. It's the shortest day. The night is long, it's dark. And at the summer solstice, the day is long, it's the longest day, and the night is very short. And these 2 axes then are crossed by the 2 equinoxes. So we have spring equinox and autumn equinox, when we are at the equal points, when day and night are equal. So the sun rises at about 6 o'clock and sets at about 6 o'clock. And these 4 Earth, they're fixed by the Earth and the Earth cycle around the sun. But in between these, we've got 4 more, and we call these the cross-quarter festivals. And these cross-quarter festivals they represent the seasonal heights. They're the heights of the season, and at that point of height of the season's about to change and turn into the next season. So they help keep us connected to the cycle of the year. So each time I like to go out, I don't always go out on the calendar day. I'm a bit of a wimp. I choose a nice day. I like to see the sunrise. I like to go out and I like to get up early and go and see the sunrise. And the only one that's the most tricky is, of course, summer solstice, because of course you're up at 3:30 in the morning. And often you haven't gone to bed, actually. So I like to get up and go and see the sunrise, and I like to also be out before the sunrise, So be out when it's dark. There's something really very exciting about getting up early before most people have got up and going out and, packing a bag and going out for the day. I like to find a special place to sit, and to sit very, very, very still, so that I almost become melded with nature. And it's just a very, there are special moments. It's so simple, but there are special moments that you never forget. The first thing that you need to know is where the sun rises from your house, where the sun rises from the nearest point from your home, where you can get to easily. And it's good if you can climb a hill and look out to the east. But of course, the sun doesn't always rise in the east. It rises in the east only at the equinoxes. And in between times, it's either moving towards southeast or northeast, depending on the time of year. So I'd just like to just talk a little bit about the spring equinox, because we're almost there. It's in 10 days' time. So we're coming now to that point of day and night being equal, of waking up at 6 in the, 6, it's about 6:15 at the moment, and the sunset also, round about 6 o'clock. And it's a point of balance in the Earth cycles, and we can take that opportunity to look at what we would like to see balanced in ourselves. And I always use this time to find, to look at how well I'm doing in balancing doing and being. How well I'm doing at balancing my rational thinking, busy mind with my heart mind. Am I balanced? Am I keeping a daily balance on that? Probably not. Most of us aren't, because we've been very much trained to be doing. And spring equinox, as round about this time, is the time for planting seeds. And so we can also consciously plant new seeds in ourselves. So it's good to ask at this point in time, what do I want to grow this spring? And what qualities do I want to increase? What do I want to hold on to? What have I learned in this winter quarter of the year, from winter solstice to the spring equinox? What have I learned in this time, and what do I want to hold on to? So, what do we plant? What new seeds do we plant? What new intentions do we plant? And that's I think one of the most important things about this practice is that it helps to keep us. It helps to keep an overview. It helps to keep us looking forwards at what we want, but also looking back to see where we've come from. And for me, this is part of personal rewilding process. And it's finding our way back to living with a more conscious awareness of how we're part of nature, we're part of these seasonal cycles, they affect us, and they're part of our everyday lives. So we do nothing in isolation. Whatever we give our attention to will grow. So we can use this time of fertility and new growth to focus on what we want to manifest in our lives, to consciously make changes and transform the old and grow new ways forward. Now Lee is going to tell us about mindfulness. Well, this is actually, you know, more mindfulness, because following the season cycles is a mindful practice. So more mindfulness from Lee. Thank you, Lee.
And of course, if it wasn't for your book, Letting in the Wild Edges, we wouldn't have actually started running our Woodland Winter Solstice. You give some fabulous ideas. So if anybody's new to the idea of the seasonal cycles, just get the book. It's full of juicy ideas that you can take away and practice for yourself. So yeah, thanks for that, Glennie. Okay, so because I'm aware that a lot of people are wanting to start running their own wellbeing in nature sort of groups, I wanted to give you the nuts and bolts of how I run a session. So I run Mindfulness in Nature for the last 2-3 years. I've been running it regularly for groups of people in an ancient woodland in the grounds of a Norman castle. It's rather fabulous. But I wanted to just, in case you're feeling like you want to build your confidence in taking out groups and you don't know where to begin, this is how I do it. And then I'm going to give you loads of ideas that you might think that's the one for me, or no, I'm not so keen on that. But there should be plenty of ideas that you'll find something that suits you. So, oh, and by the way, you don't need to be a group leader to get from this. This can all be about your own personal experience as well. So, yeah, it's about building confidence, hugely about building confidence in running groups. You can do it. You know, as long as you've got your risk assessment in place, you've got the permission, all the boring stuff like registration forms and all that. But you're perhaps you're already a teacher, or you've ran groups before. You just want to take that next step and taking it out into nature. You know what? Go for it. It's fine. So here's some ideas. So I meet people in the car park of a National Trust property and get the registration forms, find out where people are from, and then we walk up the hill at the side of this huge Norman castle, and we get to the entrance of the woodland. And all the while I'm building rapport with people and everyone's just feeling relaxed. Because the very nature of advertising mindfulness in nature session, you're going to attract people who are potentially living with anxiety, depression, that sort of thing. Although it's not necessarily advertised as that, it does tend to attract people who are looking for ways to help themselves, okay? So we get to the entrance of the woodland and it's up a hill. So the first thing I ask people to do is put their hand on their heart and just take a moment to connect with the body. Feel the heart racing, because at this point it is beating in the chest, and you can really feel that. And so I get everyone just to come out of their heads and into their bodies. And I stand next to a hawthorn tree. So heart, and then I talk about the tree that is all about the heart, the circulatory system, and depending on the time of year, we have a little nibble. So whether the berries are out, the haws, or whether the brand new leaves are out, we have a little nibble. And I talk about how the tree and eating it, which can help with learning to love yourself, which is something, one of Glennie's little nuggets from her books. And I say, so if you eat or create a tincture or make a tea, it will help you to learn to love yourself. But it also literally does strengthen the heart and the circulatory system. Then as we walk from that point to the fire circle, the big log circle where we have our fire, we do the senses. We go through the senses. And I talk to people about how do we connect with nature? How do we connect with ourselves? And the easiest way, the first way, is through the 5 senses. And when we talk about connecting with body, connecting with nature, they're not really separate. They are the same things. We are nature. So let's not separate them. let's bring them together and know that we are nature. So we begin with sight, and I say drink in the detail, but also think about the wider picture, the bigger landscape. Look at the detail of the moss, and then look at the landscape, or whatever takes people's fancy. But we're focusing on sight, okay? And we have a video on our YouTube channel, so when I do this, we talk about the woodland animals. So think about the owl eyes and using our peripheral vision to connect with our sight, but also zoning in to perhaps something that the owl might be hunting. This is also a good way to introduce the idea of senses to children. Then we talk about, so we've got badger nose and the sense of smell. And, I say, sniff a tree. Why not? Let's just smell trees. What do they smell like? And of course, the smells in nature are very subtle. So we really have to kind of pay attention to notice those subtleties. And maybe it's the mustiness of the leaf litter, and by all accounts, sycamore has its own smell. And we've got deer ears, and I ask people to cup their ears and hear what's in front of them, and then to cup their ears behind, and so they can hear what's behind them. But to notice the sounds. And when in the forest, we tend to listen very much to the bird song. And so I talk about the 5 languages of birds, okay? Now here, the picture you're seeing on the screen at the minute is the YouTube video, which is, I go through this in detail. Oh, and there's the fire circle. I'll come to that in a minute. So we talk about the bird songs, not just can we listen to the birds singing, but can we notice the different language that they use? So we have the voices, 5 voices of the bird. We have song, we have companion or contact calls, we have juvenile begging, we have aggression, and we have alarm. So those are the sounds of the birds, which is, it gives us another level of listening to the bird song, but it might not be bird song. It might be we can hear a distant car, but it's all about zoning into what we can hear. So we've got smell, sound, touch, squirrel fingers, touch. And I don't ask people to hug a tree, but they can if they want to. And there's some great big giant sequoia trees on the in the grounds, and it's nice to feel the bark and compare it with other bark. And so we go through this walk and through this journey through the senses. And depending on the time of year and what we pass, we use taste. Generally, as we get to our log circle, we pass some wood sorrel, which is perfect for engaging our sense of taste because it's got that Granny Smith apple flavour. Some people think it's lemony, but I think it's definitely Granny Smith apple peel, which is fabulous. And it's all about sort of getting, really getting into the taste in our mouths. Okay. So, and then you saw on the slide the fire circle. That was quite a big group. That was a big weekend we did. So it's not normally that big, but that's our fire circle. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And so the fire circle is then, it's creating a safe space, okay? So people, they don't have to say anything about why they're here, but I always ask, what's brought you to this group, to this event? And very often people say, I have been having anxiety, but it's important here to note that it isn't a therapy session, but it is therapeutic, okay? Everything we do in the woods, even if it's den building with kids, it's therapeutic, okay? It's not therapy, but it's therapeutic. Being out in the woodland is totally therapeutic. But I always start with the circle, and I ask people to introduce themselves with my own journey of how I overcome anxiety through building my own nature connection. And somehow that vulnerability allows other people then to share. It does help that I'm a counsellor, because if anyone does get emotional, I can hold that space. So just be aware that, you know, that training does come in handy. Let's have a look. Okay, so now I want to share with you a list of different ideas, techniques that you could do in your group, with your family, or by yourself. Okay, and this is all about developing your connection to nature, unique to you, okay? So there's a trust exercise that we've done before. Blindfold one person, the other person goes out and collects something from nature and hands it to the blindfolded person. Nobody says what they think it is, that's not important, but the blindfolded person explores the object and describes it without naming it, just describes it without sight. And it's amazing what sort of descriptive words they come out with, okay? So that's a great activity, and then they swap over. Land art. So let's have a little look. I think I accidentally showed this. Share and Google. There we go. So land art and mandalas. Oh, there's our fire circle. So you can see all the bracken behind. It's really enclosed during the summer. There's a mandala made of leaves, which is, that's more of a group activity. Oh, well, it's something nice to do as a group, but it can be done alone. So I very often ask people to go out and do land art and to let go of the need to make it good enough, because some people, in fact, many of us, you ask them to create art and it sends a chill down their spine, takes them reeling back to school when they were told they couldn't draw a pine cone. You're like, you know, it's not about creating something fantastic, it's about the process and enjoying that process. And it can be so simple, just like this picture of pebbles, very, very simple. It doesn't have to look amazing. It's not, no one's judging. And you kind of make that known to the group. We're not here to judge, we're here to find. And when we walk around people's land art afterwards, if they invite us, it's only on invitation do we do that. And I ask them, what was that like for you? I don't give my opinion of, do I think it's good or not? I might ask, how was that for you? And then they tell us how, maybe it was difficult at first, but they got really into it. And so that's really important. Again, leaf kebab, it's a good one for kids, but you know what, a lot of these kids' activities, it's great for adults too. Again, very simple, a leaf snake or caterpillar. Don't even have to name it, it just is. Now, here's another activity that you can do. So we're going to move on from mandala. And this is tree identification. My husband teaches it. And some people might not come on a mindfulness walk, because the word mindfulness itself might put people off. But let's go and identify trees. And guess what? They're being very mindful, because especially in winter, when you have to pay very close attention to the buds, the bark, and you're really zoning into the tree. So that can be an excellent activity to do for a well-being walk or a mindfulness walk. What else have we got here? So on the left, you've got my husband's feet, and he's doing a sit spot. It's my favourite of all the activities. Glennie talked about her when she sits and becomes very still. And you know what? Magical things can happen. If you sit for long enough, still enough, and adopt the pace of nature, nature stops paying attention to you and reveals itself. I sat for half an hour once, and it took that long for the little mouse in a hole 3 inches from my foot to trust that I was no threat, or it forgot I was there, I don't know. And up it came, and it went about its business right in front of me. It was so beautiful. On the right, you've got barefoot walking. Fabulous activity. It's all about drawing electrons from the earth and it benefits all the systems of the body, boosts the immune functioning, loads of benefits. I've got a question for Glennie about that in a moment. Mapping, sound maps, making a nature journal, breathe with a tree meditation. Oh, that's it. 5 languages of birds I mentioned before. Can you hear the 5 languages? Can you notice the difference? Look at the jay feather I found there. The oak at the gate of the dead. What a fabulous tree that is. And it's got a great story behind it. What a name for a tree. Hammocks, looking at the canopy of the trees, identifying wildflowers. This is a video on our YouTube channel, so check that out if you want to know your 12 wildflowers in spring. Colours in nature, just exploring the colours. Tree flowers, who knew that the oak tree had tiny little pink flowers? This picture is not of the oak flowers, this is the mighty larch, and they look like raspberries. Did you even know? All trees have flowers, nearly all our native trees have flowers. They just go very much unnoticed. What a great activity, go looking for flowers on trees. Glennie, I just want to ask, I'm probably running short of time, but hold on. Stop share. So the idea of barefoot walking, it fascinates me. I love it. I love the invigorated feel. But in one of your books, it says that you can sit by a waterfall and the negative ions that come off the waterfall, we can actually, rather than freezing cold wild swimming, we can actually take in the electrons from moving water. Is that right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a bit of science I've managed to retain. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not one for jumping in cold water myself. My daughter is, but not me.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. And just getting your feet in water, just absorbing up through your feet, as we know, the soles of our feet are absolutely chocker with nerve endings. So yeah,
so
we receive up through the feet.
So if you're not good for wild swimming, barefoot walking is not so bad, but do sit by a waterfall and take in those negative ions. And the effects on the body are quite remarkable. Okay, so I'm just coming up to the end. If you're helping children to find their edge and develop their boundaries in nature, sleeping lions, where they have to lie on the grass and they might feel really nervous because there might be creepy crawlers and they might feel they don't want to, but sleeping lions is a great way to start to get them relaxed and used to touching nature. Okay. There are actually more, I could go on and on, but I can't. So I'm going to pass on to Glennie next. And yeah, the power of trees. And I know this, when we run forest school over and over again in a place and the trees enclose us in our fire circle, the relationship just is so powerful. They are our friends, they are our guests, or we're their guests at their circle.
I reckon we're their guests.
Right, Glennie, go for it.
Oh, trees, they bring me so much joy, and they have been the greatest of my teachers, I must say, and I'm totally in love with trees, just totally in love with them, whatever the time of year, whatever the tree, from tiny little trees to big old trees. They change me, and I think well, for me anyway, trees give me a direct experience of nature, a direct experience of relationship. And I think that's what I've been looking for, really, is this relationship with nature that changes us, that moves us from the old conditioning that we've got, that we're separate from nature, and moves us into knowing the sentience. The sentience of trees is quite immediate, and it's something you can feel. And out of all of aspects of nature, and it's not always the same for everybody, but for me, trees are my way in. And they're when I'm with a tree, I'm immediately out of my head, and I'm relaxing. I find trees very, very welcoming, most trees anyway. I have had experiences with trees that haven't been welcoming, blackthorn, I might add, but most trees are very, very welcoming, and they just help us relax. And as soon as we relax, then we receive. And people in our culture, especially women, we spend a lot of time giving out, but we don't spend time to stop and receive. In fact, we find it quite hard to receive, I think. It's kind of like we've not been trained for it. So I think being with trees helps us to relax and to receive. They invite us to stand still and to soak up their company and to slow down and just simply be. And that's their great gift. That's their great gift to me, who's a busy-headed person. I need trees, and they are very much part of my life. And interesting what you said, Lee, about everybody having a more direct and intimate experience of their locality because of lockdowns. And I've discovered more quirky little pockets in my locality. And only the other day, I discovered these two incredible old trees that were absolutely covered in like a green moss. And they had low branches. I was out walking with a friend, and we both sat in these two green mossy trees. And I think it's been great in many respects. In that lockdown has taken us out into our locality to discover new places. And for me, I've deepened my relationship with some lovely new trees. I've got trees all over the land that I like being with, and I don't even have to go there, because I remember them, and I remember the feeling that they give me, and I can conjure them up in my heart. And I mean, we can all do that. You know, if I say to all of you, picture an oak tree, then you can all picture an oak tree. We all have it in us. We're all so deeply connected with trees, and being with them changes us. There's no doubt about it. Don't care what the science says. Being with trees changes us, and being with trees is an experience I never ever tire of. And each tree is different, and each tree is so beautiful. They've got a beauty that really, I guess it comes back to the time when we lived really close to trees, when we lived close to a lot of very big trees as well. You know, the giant oaks that we in this country, particularly, we lived with the giant oaks, and we don't live with them anymore. There's a few left. You know, in Windsor Great Park, and we're mostly in you know, the parks of big country houses, but anyway, I digress. One of my favourite things, anyway, with trees, and it just is lying under a tree and just looking up at all the branches and looking up at the sky and just getting lost in that great tangle of branches, and and then feeling the power of all those roots beneath us. It all that we can't see of a tree. You know, there's as much tree below ground as there is above ground, and the tree lives below ground. And there's so much to appreciate about trees, and my heart, as you can see, quickly becomes full to bursting. And then I'm outside of myself, and I'm outside of my troubles and problems, and not that I've got that many, but I'm outside of the mundane world, and I'm filled up, and being with trees helps to just let go of they help me anyway, let go of my more normal everyday life, and enter a world of my imagination. And it's very easy when you're with trees to let your imagination go bubbling up from within you, and to write poetry. I write a lot of poetry when I'm with trees. I write when I'm with trees. I've got a little notebook I always carry around with me, and it is one of my greatest pleasures. It's just to go and find a tree and sit with a tree and see what comes bubbling up from the surface, from beneath the surface, I mean. We're changed by them. And another of my, I'm just looking at the time, triggering on because I've gone off my notes. Hard to do it all in a quarter of an hour, isn't it? Talk about your passion in a quarter of an hour. So yeah, I think one of my great loves is spending time with different tree species, and I've come to recognize that different species have different energies. And I got there because when I was in my mid-20s, I really couldn't draw. I could kind of draw, but I couldn't draw to my satisfaction, and so I couldn't draw realistically. So I spent time sitting with trees, and that's how I learned to draw, because the trees didn't move, just the shadows moved. And this experience of sitting for hours with trees really changed me. That was the beginning of it all. And I began to see that different tree species had a different effect on me, and as I was picking up different things from different species, and out of this phenomena, I then began to explore a little bit more about the folklore of trees, and found it was all there. All the things that I'd been picking up was actually there in documented folklore that had been handed down from a time when people lived their lives very, very close to trees, and were also picking up all these different qualities of the different trees. And then I went on to explore the trio, and this has become part of my personal practice now. It's a fantastic practice. So we start with the silver birch, because the birch is the first tree to colonize new ground. It has this boldness to begin energy, and so you start with the birch and you explore the birch, and as part of the practice you have to ask the tree for a twig that you make your little own stick from. And in just asking a tree if you can cut a twig, it's a powerful thing. You think it wouldn't be. Well, it might not be to somebody that chops trees down, but for me, it was a very powerful thing to have to do, to recognize that I was going to cut into a tree. But you ask from your heart, and you create a relationship with each tree and each tree species. And there's 21, some of them are bushes. And it's a journey, it's a personal journey. And I think that's what I like about not only following the wheel of the year, but following the trees and through the trioeum, or you can just take a tree a month and just follow a tree for a month and just see what you can learn about that tree for a month. That's another practice I've done. And it deepens our relationship, and it helps us not just looking trees up in a book, it helps us actually have a relationship with the trees that we meet, and especially old, mature trees. You know, to stand with a really old tree, you know, a 600-year-old oak or something, and just think about what that tree's seen and how life has changed so much. Or to, I mean, I'm on a bit of a quest at the moment. I'm going to explore all our yew trees, and so many of them, of course, are in old churchyards, but not all of them. I want to go on a bit of a quest, a vision quest, around the land when we can travel, and go and meet all our old yew trees, well, the ones I hadn't met already anyway, because some of those are like 2,000 years old, and they've been standing in that same spot, regenerating from their root bowls for 2,000 years. And, you know, we can feel the power of them. So yeah, so that's going to be a kind of new quest for the opening up of lockdown. There's so much to say. I can't really say it all. I think I'll end on the fact that trees, I think, help to keep us anchored. They help to keep us grounded. And a great technique that I often use is to just send my roots. I just stand like a tree. If I'm stressed or worried, or you know, if I need the strength of trees, because they are strong and they're wonderful, wonderful beings, then I stand like a tree. And when you stand like a tree, everything changes in your body, you know, and you send your roots down into the earth, and then you're anchored to the earth. And it's about this long breath. You send your breath down into the earth, and you, instead of focusing on your upper breath, you're focusing on your outer breath. And yeah, trees, fantastic. There's so much more to say, but I'm running out of time. I've run out of time, and Lee is ready to move on and tell us more about bushcraft.
Thanks, Glennie. I'm going to send you a video of James and the ancient yew in Wrexham near us. We made it just for our
brilliant
fans, and I'll send you a link. It's got a good story to it. So
great. A lot of them haven't they? The old yews.
The stories are just fabulous, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so bushcraft. My husband's a bushcraft instructor. I'm a counsellor, and basically, in a nutshell, we blended the two together. I'm personally quite interested in the idea of reaching men at risk of suicide and who are experiencing anxiety and depression. My Mindfulness in the Woods events tend to be 95% women attend, and I wanted to reach out to men, or just have something that men would want to book on. I personally love running groups where there's a 50-50 roughly ratio. I like the energy. I prefer the energy. I love all women groups, don't get me wrong. However, I just enjoy the blend of energies. And so we got to thinking about bushcraft, and it's interesting, as James trained to become an instructor, I semi-trained with him, just like he semi-trained to become a counsellor when I was training. And it became really obvious that to practice bushcraft requires incredible presence and mindfulness, and paying attention and slowing down. They just blend beautifully together. So we ran Woodland, Mindfulness and Bushcraft. I think 3 years now we've been running it, and it's great. It's wonderful. We have a mixture of sort of more of the mindfulness activities and a good mixture of your shelter build. I shouldn't call them dens. That's children, but you know, it's part of the our inner child, isn't it? But shelter building, fire lighting, and they just work really well together. So I've got some pictures here to show you. So there's James with 2 of the participants after lighting their fire. And it takes a long time to light a fire because you go out and you gather and you look for the right twigs. You're looking for dry twigs. You're looking for perhaps taking a bit of birch bark to help to take the spark to light the fire. And then what a mindful moment when you're sitting at the fruits of your labour with this fabulous fire getting, it's like a hypnotic experience, isn't it, to sit in front of a fire, but to have created it yourself in that space is fabulous. So shelter building or den building, let's call it a den, kids love building dens, and why should we stop building dens just because we grow up? It's great. It's your little kingdom. It's in miniature. What's not to love about it? But the idea of bringing mindfulness into it, what James was doing was introducing the idea of asking questions. Okay, are we just going to randomly build a shelter wherever we're standing, or are we going to ask questions first? Okay, well, what direction is the wind going in? What direction should we put the shelter front? Where are we in the woodland? What is around us? What impact am I going to have by putting this shelter here? Look up into the canopy of the trees. Is there any nesting birds that we're going to upset? Think about the sun rising, where it sets. Where do we want to build this shelter? What materials are available to us? So there's a whole process before you even pick up a stick of asking questions and bringing ourselves present into the moment, into our setting, and creating at least amount of impact as possible. So here we are, Cecily building her shelter. She's got boys who love den building, and they thought she was the coolest thing ever when she went back with all the skills that she learnt over the weekend. And here are 2 people who lit their own fire and then just spent time. It was a fabulous weekend. You can see the sun shining, and it was just these moments, these magical, mindful moments of sitting, because it took time to get to that point of lighting your fire, and it's ever so hard to capture on camera mindful moments, but these are the best of what we took. And again, there was family groups that came on this particular one, and the bonding amongst them, it was evident to see. It was lovely. And there's some blowing on the fire. Oh, and there's a lady. She was making a spoon, carving a spoon in her shelter that she'd built. And she stayed there for ages. We were getting on with other activities, and she said, do you mind if I just carry on with my carving and sit in this space? And so she did, and I said, can I take a photograph? I asked permission because some people are really in the zone and it can be quite intrusive to perhaps take photographs, but as running a business, photographs tell 1,000 words. So she said yes, and we captured her in her mindfulness, and it was, she loved it. And me with an axe. Hey, let's face it, who doesn't love wielding an axe? We all do. And if you haven't tried it yet, you really must. And let's face it, you've got to be mindful if you want to keep all your fingers. Oh, look at that, tracking. Okay, so bushcraft tracking. Again, it's about not, and Glennie mentioned this, not plundering through the woodland and making lots of noise and being so very human. It's about slowing down, because if you don't slow down, you will plonk your great big foot on top of that and miss it entirely. and it's gone forever. And that's a badger track. And when you're looking for tracks, you're so in the zone, you're not thinking about all the stresses and strains, you leave it all behind and you're focusing, zoning in. And there is the wood sorrel that is at the edge of our wood circle, fire circle, that I like to stop people at when I'm doing a senses walk, for that burst of flavour. And I think that's the end of my screen share. So we've got firelighting, being present, but also bushcraft is also about leaving no trace. It's really important. So when we enter a woodland, we respect it and we leave it as we found it. And so our fires, we extinguish them fully. And we mix it up like a soup with sticks, first of all, the water, make sure it's all extinguished. Then we pat it down with our hands. Is it still hot in any places? If so, more water. You mix it all up and you pick it all up with your hands and you disperse it through the woodlands and all the bracken. And then you cover over the patch, the load of the pine needles or leaf litter, and it should be that no one would know that you were there. And if you're working with children, you kind of make out it's like a spy, people can't follow us. But it's really important, and bushcraft teaches that. But the one last thing I wanted to say before we pass on to Glennie is natural navigation. And there's lots of ways we can sort of find out how to navigate, and one of them being the sky at night, nighttime. There are other ways that you can during the daytime, but we're going to just touch on that, and Glennie's going to talk about that now. But yeah, bushcraft is an excellent way to be mindful in the woods. So Glennie, over to you.
The final thing I wanted to talk about tonight is about the moon and her cycles, because it's another natural cycle that we're often unaware of, mostly because we don't spend much time outside at night. And it's only these experiences that, like Lee's been talking about, where we light fires and we sit outside with the fire. It's such a great experience. And many of us live in towns and villages even that have got street lighting, and that also weakens our experience of the night sky. And our culture seems to hide away from the dark. We fill our towns and villages with electric light to keep the dark at bay. There's kind of like a fear of the dark. And so as part of deepening your experience of nature, perhaps we're just coming up to new moon, which is a time to set intentions. So perhaps you might like to make an intention to step out more at night, more often, and experience the night. And see if you can find a place that's conducive, perhaps where you can watch the full moon rise if it's a clear night. As with sunrise, it's good to find a hill that faces east. So the moon always rises in the east. I've just become more aware of the moon because I've moved house, and it's made me aware of it because it rises in the east and I can see it, and then it travels across the trees behind the house so I can see it. And it's made me become more aware of it. And I've just started a moon diary. And this is a really good practice. Again, it's another personal practice. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's a really good way of making connection to these cycles and how they're affecting you, and how your relationship with nature changes. Full moon, where there's plenty of light. So I've taken to walking up. I like to go outside when the moon's full. I find it very exciting, and I've taken to walking up a little lane near here, and there's a gate, and I can lean on the gate and look out across this field that's bathed in moonlight. It's just a magical experience. It's so simple, and yet, you know, I've got away from the street lights, and I'm there, just me and the moon and the fields and the night noises. It's really magical. So in my moon journal, I'm just logging new moon and full moon. So the new moon, so it rises at sunrise and sets at sunset. So we don't see it because it's hidden by the sun's brightness. So it rises at the same time as the sun. The full moon rises at sunset, so we could see it because it's reflecting the rays of the sun. So it took me ages to work that out. Why? What's going on? The moon's quite a tricky little cycle, and so this is why I've been trying to follow it. And the new moon we can't see. But I was going to do a little plug for the Earth Pathways Diary, wonderful, wonderful diary that has all the moon rises and the moon sets. It's been invaluable on my new journey with the moon. So at the time of the new moon, the dark of the moon, it's the time to plant seeds of ourselves. It's also the perfect time to plant seeds, actual seeds, plant seeds. The energy rises. The full moon energy. The full moon is so powerful. It has, you know, it moves the waters. It raises the tides twice a day, and it makes plants grow. So it's very interesting that these forces that we just kind of take for granted in the sky actually have so much force on us. You know, they affect us. And you know, the moon's long been known as you know, affecting our emotions. And full moon, you know, people go a little wild and a bit feral. And yeah, why not tap into that, is what I say. and you know, be part of the experience of our planet, because that's the moon is part of our nature experience. And see if you can find places to step out. And I did have a think. It might be nice to invite another friend to go out with me on moon walks, because you know, I do have a residual of fear. I'm facing it and moving into the dark on my own. But I thought it could be really nice to maybe go out with a friend for a walk. But I think you'd probably have to put a proviso of not talking, so that you step out into the night, you know, and absorb the night and let your senses expand. You know, I think the dark helps your senses to expand. You know, let your listening expand, so you might be able to hear a fox or a badger or an owl, you know, and have the experience. So yeah, that's again not all I was going to say, but I can see we're going past the end point. So yeah, keeping a moon diary. We're coming up to new moon, so it's a good time to start. It's a good time to start anything new moon, and then consolidate it and have a look at where you've got to at the full moon, and then the waning cycle between full moon and new moon is a time to anchor what you've learnt. And it's also a good time to plant plants because it's rooting energy. It's the descending cycle. So yeah, anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Glennie. Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it? With talking about what you're most passionate about and reducing it down. we've just gone over, we've just got a little bit more, so do bear with us. We'll be as quick as we can. I just want to let you know about some free resources that you can access to help you on your journey. And then we can might be able to squeeze in a couple of questions.
Questions. We haven't got the questions yet.
Yeah, James is going to have picked a couple, and we'll probably only get through one or two perhaps. But I'd just like you to know that we have our YouTube channel, which has got lots of videos to help you in your nature connection. So do have a look at that, Woodland Classroom. We have our own tribe on Patreon. James will probably put it in a link in the chat room. But we are building a community of like-minded souls. On there, you will get the backlog of all the wild food webinars. Every month we've been running them. The March one is next week, if you'd like to join us for that. But by becoming a patron, you get the backlog of it. And every month we create a video just for our patrons of us on the foraging walk. We do a live webinar and then a video to accompany it. And you get to see all of those. They are soon going to be packaged into a course that you can buy, but not yet. Another month, I think, before we can do that. So you can join us for live Q&As where we discuss all aspects of nature connection. We get discounts. So our top patrons tonight have attended for free. There are articles, there are recipes. We've got our Whispers from the Woods video series where James talks about ancient trees, the yew tree in Wrexham, Glennie, and all sorts of wonderful things to do with nature connection. And for as little as a cup of dandelion coffee, you can join. Also, if you're interested in learning about trees, James has created a huge tree identification course of all our native trees. It's all on video and it's through the seasons, but the first part is absolutely free. So do take advantage of that. So I think that's everything. Glennie, have you got anything you want to plug? Any courses coming up?
This is why I want to plug the Earth Pathways tree journal. It's got lots of my artwork in, but lovely water marked pages of trees. Great for doing your moon journaling. Everything. I just been looking at the chat, which is fantastic. And I'm sorry I've not had a James who's been adding bits in. For Lee, and I don't know how to answer all the questions that people have asked, but thank you anyway for contributing on the chat. It's fascinating. Everything I've talked about is on my website, and I know James has put that in somewhere on the chat. Anyway, it's glenniekindred.co.uk. It's very easy.
And the two books, which the Walking with Trees by Glennie and Walking with Trees is fabulous. James loved it. And Letting in the Wild Edges.
Letting in the Wild Edges.
There's a Thailand and take one book with me. That would be the book.
Oh, bless. Anyway, they're all on the website.
Yeah. Do you need to be in wilderness to get the benefits of a sit spot or mindfulness in nature? What a great question.
I would say no.
Go on, you answer that, Glennie.
No, you answer it. Okay. I'm just putting my oar in.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think as long as it feels like nature is with you, so it could be at the bottom of your garden. Even if you're hearing a lot of traffic around you, but you might have a little wild patch, you will sit for long enough and nature will start to speak louder than the traffic. As long as you sit and adopt the pace of nature, I can almost guarantee that nature will speak louder than the traffic.
Yeah.
The tiniest space can be your spot for nature. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Even if it's a flower box in a high-rise flat in the middle of London, yeah. I think you could have mindful moments with those flowers.
Yeah.
Great question. Lorraine asks, do you spend time with the same tree for a month, or do you visit different trees of the same species, Glennie?
Oh, that was just a little idea I tossed out. I personally would visit, when I did it, I visited different trees of the same species, but you could equally visit the same tree for a month. Wow, that would be really good. I'd like to do that. I think I'll do that next. I think you can do anything that you want to, you know, there's no right or wrong.
Great, thanks. And then last one. So tips for someone living in the city struggling to access green space. Do you know what? James and I have been running online nature sessions for kids all up and down Wales with learning differences. And some kids don't have access to green space. So we've talked about, look out of your window, count how many birds there are, clouds, grow something in your kitchen windowsill. And remember, you are nature. You cannot connect with nature because you already are nature. So connecting with your body and looking up. If all you can see is concrete, then look up. And go outside at night in the dark and stars. So yeah, and find your way. Find your unique way. Everyone's journey is going to be unique and individual to them. So yeah, I think just find your way.
Yeah.
So
and you know, the cities are absolutely full of native plants. Actually, if you look down at the cracks in the pavement, they're full of native plants. And, you know, get into a bit of plant IDing and looking at the folklore of the plants and, you know, follow the trail of the plants and find your way out of the city.
Yeah, chickweed all over Chester pavements. It's great. Obviously I won't eat it because it's
mustn't eat it from the
but
pavement.
I love to see that it takes hold right when it's not supposed to.
And in the walls, in old walls, there's always lots of plants growing out of old walls, isn't there? And actually churchyards are a wonderful place, and our cities have all got churchyards in, and churchyards are wonderful wild places.
Yes, that's a good point. I found loads of wild food in churchyards.
And not many people visit them.
No, they don't. But you can visit your old yews and forage for wild food. And
they're full of trees. A lot of them are full of trees. Yeah.
So I think come to an end there. You'll all get a recording of this if you want to go back and revisit some of the things we've said. But again, I just want to reiterate that thing. Nature, your journey is going to be unique to you. So take from it what you will. But if you want to continue your journey and you're not too zoomed out, we are running a free tree ID Facebook live event. Is that correct? Zoom. It's a live Zoom. The link is in the description. And it's all about trees in spring. So looking out for the flowers and the catkins and how to identify those trees. James will be running that. I will be having a night off, much needed. So that's free. So do check that out if you're not too zoomed out, of course, which we all are getting a little bit of late. So go out and walk barefoot in your garden if you de-zoom. Thank you so much for watching and joining Glennie and I and listening to what we are most passionate about.
Yeah.
And thank you, Glennie.
Thank you, Lee.
Blessings to you all. Enjoy spring equinox.
Yes.
All right. Thank you and goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.